Martha was rinsing dishes one evening when she saw what she believed to be a small snake slithering around her kitchen sink. Panicked, she trapped it under a glass and called the local wildlife rescue. The vet arrived expecting a routine snake retrieval. However, upon closer inspection, his face blank. He stared at Martha, his voice trembling. "That's not a snake, it's far worse." Martha looked at veterinarian George, whose face looked pale. "What do you mean it's not a snake?" she asked, her voice filled with fear. Her hand trembled as she pressed the glass down, feeling the snake moving around inside it. George searched for the right words, not wanting to scare Martha even more. Suddenly, he grabbed his phone and began to walk away. "Keep your hand on the glass. I have to call someone." He walked out of the front door, leaving Martha alone, struggling against this snake's strength. It really wanted to get out from under the glass, and Martha had to do her very best not to let that happen. With the size of this thing, she was sure one bite would be enough to kill her. Her heart raced as she waited and waited and waited. Just as her hand began to cramp, George returned. "What took you so long?" she blurted out. Her arm was losing strength rapidly, and she needed George to switch places with her. "Here, you hold it down now," she ordered, but George hesitated. But what animal was actually in Martha's drain? Why was Vet George acting so strange? And why didn't he want to help her? But before we start, smash the like button, subscribe, and don't forget the notification bell so you never miss any of our upcoming stories. In the days before Martha discovered the animal in her drain, she had noticed strange sounds echoing through her house at night. At first, she had just assumed it was her house settling or something like that, but each night, it was somewhere else inside her house. And after a week, she began to hear those sounds during the day as well. She thought she was going mad. She even called a ghost whisperer who came to her house and told her various ghost stories. Luckily, her sister gave her a big reality check when she came to visit. "It's probably just termites, you weirdo," she said boldly, but it did make Martha rethink everything. She wasn't scared anymore. Instead, she was a bit disgusted. She called an exterminator the same day, but when they came by, they told her she didn't have a single termite in her walls or ceilings. She was back to square one, but she was exhausted and annoyed at this point. While washing her dishes, she got lost in thought, thinking about moving away, when she suddenly felt something move past her hand. Martha drained the sink immediately. When it was almost empty, she saw the end of what she thought to be a snake's tail disappear into her drain. Martha screamed and dropped her plate, which shattered on the ground as she jumped backward. Chills ran over her body as she realized a snake had slithered past her hand. Then, it suddenly reappeared. Without thinking, Martha grabbed a glass and placed it over her drain, not wanting the snake to slither into her house. With her other hand, she reached for her phone and called animal control. Her heart raced as she realized she was stuck in her kitchen until someone arrived to catch the slithery animal. She felt it move inside the glass but was way too scared to look. After what felt like ages, someone rang her doorbell. "Come in through the back door," she yelled as loud as she could, hoping the person at the door would hear her. She didn't want to leave her spot as she didn't want to risk the glass falling over. She heard the person at the door move around her house, and finally, a man stepped into her kitchen. The man introduced himself as George, a vet. Martha explained what she had seen and told George the animal was still underneath the glass. Intrigued, George stepped closer, and Martha lifted the glass slightly. After peeking underneath the glass, he shot upright and gasped. "That's not a snake!" George yelled, his eyes wide in shock. Martha couldn't believe what she was hearing. "What do you mean it's not a snake?" Martha's frustration grew as George hesitated, unsure if he should intervene. "Why are you just standing there?" she snapped. George bit his lip, eyes darting between Martha and the glass. I don't know if it's safe," he stammered. Martha's grip on the glass tightened. "I can't hold it forever," she shouted. George took a small step forward but then froze again. Martha felt a surge of anger and desperation. "Do something, George," she demanded, her voice shaking. The creature pushed harder against the glass, making Martha's hand tremble. She could feel its strength increasing as if it sensed her weakening grip. "It's getting stronger," she hissed through gritted teeth. George watched in horror as the glass started to tilt. "Hold on, Martha," he exclaimed, finally stepping closer. Martha's voice cracked with fear, demanding George help her immediately. "George, please, I can't do this alone," she begged, tears welling up in her eyes. George's face was a mask of indecision. He reached out but then pulled back, his hand trembling. "I need to know what it is first," he muttered. Martha's heart pounded in her chest. "We don't have time for that," she shouted. "Just help me!" George, sweating profusely, insisted it wasn't safe to interfere. "Martha, I don't think it's safe to touch it," he said, wiping his forehead. Martha's eyes widened with frustration. "Then what do we do? Let it escape?" she retorted. George shook his head. "We need professional help," he explained, glancing nervously at the glass. Martha's patience was wearing thin. "You're the vet here, George!" she yelled, her voice echoing in the kitchen. "Act like one!" Martha's anxiety spiked as George refused to assist her directly. "You can't leave me like this," she cried, her voice trembling with panic. George backed away, his face pale. "I'm sorry, Martha, but this is beyond my expertise," he said, his voice shaky. Martha's mind raced. She looked at George with pleading eyes. "Please, don't leave me alone with this thing," she whispered, feeling utterly abandoned. George stepped back and quickly dialed a number, speaking urgently. "Hello? Yes, this is Dr. George Carson. I need immediate assistance at 345 Maple Street," he said, his voice rising with each word. "Please hurry!" He hung up and glanced at Martha. "Help is on the way," he assured, but his eyes betrayed his fear. Martha's hand ached, feeling isolated and desperate for help. Her grip on the glass was slipping, and the creature's relentless pushing made it harder to hold on. George's hushed conversation heightened Martha's sense of urgency. She could hear him muttering into his phone, "Yes, it's serious. No, I don't know what it is." He glanced at her, eyes wide with worry. "They're on their way," he reassured, but it felt like forever. Martha pleaded softly, her voice barely above a whisper, for George to hurry. "Please, George, I can't do this alone." The tension in the room grew as Martha struggled to hold on. The creature was becoming more frantic, and the glass began to vibrate with its movements. "George, do something!" she cried out, her voice breaking. George looked around, desperate for a solution. He grabbed a towel and pressed it down on the glass, adding his weight to hers. "Just a bit longer," he whispered. Martha nodded. 2 more people arrived, equipped with heavy-duty gloves and tool. They moved quickly but carefully, their eyes wide with a mixture of curiosity and concern. "We're here to help," one of them said, nodding at George. Martha's grip on the glass wavered as relief and fear mingled within her. "Thank goodness," she murmured. George stepped back, giving the newcomers space. "This is Martha," he introduced. "We need to contain this thing right away." They cautiously approached Martha, concern evident in their eyes. "Hi, Martha," the taller one said softly. "We're gonna take it from here, okay?" Martha nodded, her eyes fixed on the glass. The other team member adjusted their gloves, ready to assist. "Just hold on a bit longer," they reassured. George stood by, his expression serious. The team exchanged a look, understanding the gravity of the situation. They moved closer, prepared to take over. George took charge, instructing the team to contain the creature immediately. "All right, here's the plan," he said, his voice firm. "We need to get it into the containment box without letting it escape." Martha watched as George pointed to the tools they had brought. "You, grab the box. You, be ready to secure the glass," Ed directed. The team members nodded, following his instructions without hesitation. Martha felt a flicker of hope amid her fear. Martha's fear escalated as the team moved closer to the glass. The creature underneath seemed to sense the activity, its movements becoming more frantic. "It's getting agitated," she warned, her voice trembling. George glanced at her, nodding. "We're ready," he said. The team positioned themselves, tools in hand. "On my count," George instructed. Martha's heart raced as they prepared to lift the glass. 1, 2, 3, George called out, and the team sprang into action. The team prepared their tools, ready to secure the mysterious creature. They moved with precision, each person knowing their role. "Hold it steady," George instructed, his eyes focused. Martha held her breath, watching their every move. One team member carefully slid a tool under the glass while the other readied the containment box. "We're almost there," George muttered. Martha's grip tightened, her mind racing with worry. The moment of truth was at hand. The team set up a containment box around the glass carefully. George directed them, ensuring every movement was precise. "Easy now, we don't want to startle it," he warned. The box had a sliding lid that the team positioned right next to the glass. Martha watched with bated breath, her eyes darting between the team and the creature. "Is it going to work?" she whispered. George nodded slightly, his focus unwavering. "It has to," he replied. Martha's heart pounded, her fear reaching new heights. She could feel her pulse in her throat as the team made final adjustments to the box. She asked George about the creature, her voice trembling. "George, what is it? Why is it so dangerous?" George glanced at her. "Martha, I wish I could tell you," he said, his voice steady but serious. "Right now, our priority is to contain it safely." Martha swallowed hard, nodding. "Okay, but please, once it's secure, you have to explain," she insisted. George remained silent, focusing entirely on the task at hand. He motioned for the team to proceed, his eyes never leaving the glass. Martha felt a surge of anxiety as she watched them work. The room was filled with the sound of careful movements and the occasional hushed instruction. The team readied themselves for a coordinated capture of the creature. George counted down, his voice calm and authoritative. "On 3, lift the glass and slide the box over it," he instructed. The team nodded, their muscles tensed in anticipation. 1, 2, 3. George called out. In a swift practice motion, the glass was lifted and the box slid into place. Martha held her breath, watching the creature's every move. The moment of truth had arrived. The team swiftly lifted the glass, securing the creature in the containment box. In one coordinated move, they trapped it without giving it a chance to escape. Martha watched, her breath caught in her throat. The box clicked shut and George immediately locked it. "It's done," he said, exhaling a sigh of relief. Martha finally let go of the glass, her fingers numb from gripping it so tightly. "Is it really over?" she asked, her voice shaky. Martha collapsed in relief, overwhelmed and shaky after the incident. George tried to reassure her that the threat was contained, but both remained uneasy. The team sealed the mysterious creature in a locked containment box, moving it to the kitchen with extra precautions. Martha, still shaken, couldn't stop asking, "Is it really safe?" Curiosity quickly replaced fear. Martha demanded answers from George, refusing to accept vague reassurances. After pressure from Martha and a silent exchange with his team, George finally agreed to reveal the truth. He led Martha to the box, warning her to keep an open mind. As the team gathered, George slowly lifted the lid. Martha leaned in, her heart racing. "What is it?" she whispered. George looked at her and replied, "Look for yourself." Martha was shocked to see a large pink tail inside the box, clearly not a snake. George admitted it was something much rarer. As Martha connected strange noises in her home to the creature, she demanded answers. George explained they'd encountered similar creatures before, though rarely in this area. It wasn't just her house, other incidents had been reported nearby. What seemed like an isolated case was part of a growing problem that now needed urgent action. Martha was horrified to discover the strange creature in her home was actually a giant aggressive rat. Though relieved it wasn't something worse, the danger was real. George and his team explained these rats were smart, destructive, and difficult to catch. They began their work using traps and specialized gear. Martha, still anxious, checked her drainage system herself and called pest control for a full inspection. To her shock, a colony of rats was found beneath her home. After the infestation was cleared, Martha struggled to feel safe again. Constant anxiety drove her to make a difficult decision. She put her house up for sale. Eventually, she moved to a quieter neighborhood, hopeful to start fresh and regain peace. The new home brought Martha peace, and the refreshing change helped her finally relax. Living near a park she loved, she embraced daily walks, made new friends, and felt more connected than ever. To prevent any future infestations, she adopted 2 cats, Whiskers and Shadow, who quickly became her playful protectors. Their presence gave her comfort and joy, helping her leave the past behind. With each day, her fear faded, replaced by contentment. Watching her cats play in the sun, Martha knew she had truly found happiness and a fresh start. Thank you for watching. If you like this story, don't forget to hit the like button, subscription, and ring the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming story.